that what this is?
Hey, thanks for coming out. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank a number of people. This is an 11-month process. It's our 9th draft. There's a lot that goes into this, starting with Kirk Parrish. He starts with 11,000 names, and then we dwindle that down at the end of May at the spring meetings. But Matt Berry and his staff, all the area guys, Trent Kirshner, Scott Fitter, Dan Morgan and his staff on the pro side, those guys are very involved. And then obviously Pete and his staff, we just went through the weekend with those guys. They're working on all their football, on all the new offensive systems and, new defensive coordinator, and then they're still evaluating all these players. And we finally got together this last weekend and went through that. And we have a little bit more adjusting to do, but, yeah, it's our 9th one. We're fired up, ready to go.
Yeah, let's go. What do you got?
John, is this year different in any regard that stands out to you over the way you guys have handled things the last 4 or 5 years? New coaching staff trying to fit to the changes you've made and all of that, or is there any difference in the process you've experienced through it?
Yeah, great question. We're, you evaluate your drafts all the time, right? You're constantly evaluating what you think you did well, what you need to improve on. I think one of the things that we've done is kind of, it's cleaned up. We don't have quite as many names on our board. You have to have certain criteria to be on our board, and we're making less excuses for players, I would say.
You've talked a few times this offseason about getting guys who want to come in and really compete for jobs and not be afraid to do that. Just how big of that?
Sure, I mean, that's another part of our evaluation. We've just because you're talented doesn't mean you're going to come in here and not be in awe of Cam Chancellor or Bobby Wagner or Russell Wilson or whatever. And we got to get back to bringing guys into this building that are ready to compete with those guys and not just be happy to take a second seat or a backup chair, if you will, because I mean Pete's whole deal is it's all about competition. So we need to get those guys in and compete. We need to get those guys that want to come in and compete. You got to understand these guys have been, this class, they were like in 8th grade or freshman year when these guys were, in the Super Bowl, right? So they're playing them on Madden and all that sort of stuff. So it's a new group.
You mentioned less excuses for guys, certain criteria. That sounds more like you're looking for character type issues. Like when you're saying that, or am I reading into that too much?
No, that's a good point. There's a lot. There's there's character, psychological testing, orthopedic testing, orthopedic grades, true fits, and sometimes you can make excuses in all those different areas because of a guy's specific skill set. Excuse me.
To add to that, we're this time of year we're always going back to basics and looking for the fundamental aspects of the makeup of the players, and so we have been strong on the thought of getting the smart, tough, reliable guys that we've always loved, and want to make sure that we're doing that. Maybe it's just a reminder, because it's that time of year again. But we certainly want to emphasize the real competitive-natured kids that really are going to come in and fight and claw and scratch, just like the guys that have made this program. And so it just seems like maybe we emphasize that again at this time of year every year.
How much does it change the change in coordinators on both sides? Is there a real noticeable change in that and what those guys might?
No, because they're both guys. Their communication levels are phenomenal. I mean, they're both very, very easy to speak with and talk through. All the different opinions that are flying around at this time of the year, and they're both very strong with their philosophies. So it's been I think it's been very seamless.
Yeah, very much so. Particularly on defense, Kenny comes right back in, and we keep flowing with Shadi and Mike Solari. we have, we've made sure that we've connected with, what they really feel is important, and it hasn't affected us, much, tactically at all in how we're going about it. So it's been a really good process. Really, like John said, it's been felt seamless, and we haven't missed a step so far.
You're set at quarterback, but how much does this feel a little bit like 2010, 11, and 12 drafting, developing those?
I don't know that it feels any different. Our process is really consistent, and we followed along throughout, the way John leads the whole program, and so it doesn't seem that much different yet. We're looking for a really competitive roster again. I mean, I think that I say things I think sounds like we said that maybe last year, but we really want to find guys that want to come in here and battle. We've had always a sense of the nucleus of this team, and I still feel like we are like that. There's been a nucleus that we've built it around, and Bobby and KJ and Russell and Doug and the guys that have been familiar to us. I still feel like we're doing that, So that doesn't seem that much different, really.
And with the quarterback portion, it's not like we haven't tried. I mean, we don't go into a draft saying, we're not going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
Is that what you were asking?
No.
No.
Not
Okay.
this one.
Well, great. I'm glad I asked. I'm glad I answered that question for you.
Now, when you say making excuses for players, what causes that, and what's happening in the scouting that creates that?
Well, there's so much information on every individual. Like I said, the medical portion, the orthopedic portion, the psychological portion, all the testing that goes into this, the functional movement stuff. There's at some point the character stuff, right? So at some point, there's red flags, usually on everybody. But what happens is you end up, kind of ignoring some of those red flags if you feel like you have a specific need or fit for a player. And I think it's happened in the past. It'll probably happen in the future, but we just want to limit those because you never truly know, like, the whole package, right? You never truly know what's in a man's heart, and so we just work our tails off to try to find it out. And I mean, we're still doing it. We're not gonna be done until like Wednesday night or whatever. But we're still, even when we get these guys, right now, they're in the building. And
Still figuring them out.
Yeah, and Pete's staff and the sports science guys are working with them, and Mo Kelly trying to help figure everything out.
I think too. I think this year we've taken another step towards refining the process. I think we're more precise about some things information that we're gathering, and I think it's allowed John to clean the board up even more clearly than ever. And I think that's what I know has happened. And so we might not have as many numbers on the board because we're more tuned in specifically to guys that really fit and stuff. And so I think it's a really positive thing, that we've just. And it has to do with a lot of factors too.
Right.
It has to do with the background people that are helping us with their information gathering and putting stuff together and the assessment of it. We're just better than we've been. I think we feel really good about the fact we've been able to do that.
Did you change instructions to your scouts to make this happen? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, we took them through a process of basically, they have until they come back, which was two weeks ago now. Figuring out, like, getting all those the questions answered that we need answered, the questions that we had, from when we left our pre-combine meetings, the whole process through the combine weekend, and then into the spring and all the different workouts.
When did you make the decision that you needed to have a smaller number on the board?
Our analytics guys and Trent Kirshner and Matt Berry, they brought it to my attention, and I think what had happened here is that we were a darn good football team there, talented team for a little while. So you end up like trying to, get more and more guys on your board to figure out, okay, while the draft's going on, we're going to be able to acquire this player. Should we move back to acquire that player? How's that guy going to fit in? And it just became harder for some of these guys to make the team, and that's a compliment to. The coaching staff and they're developing players, and it's a compliment to Dan Morgan and the pro side, those guys, and when we go to 53 with waiver claims and workouts or practice squad guys. We've gone through some periods where it's been pretty hard to make this football team. Is my point.
You guys, obviously the Colin Kaepernick story blew up for a little bit. Can you guys kind of take us through that process?
Well, let me say it this way. We're still battling on all fronts, on all guys. We're still looking at guys and evaluating. There's still free agents that we continue to look at, and in that, the process just continues. And at this point, this is, we've gone through the information gathering, and we kind of have a pretty good feel for where we are, and it's ongoing. We're not done with that decision at all. We're still watching it.
You guys probably wanted to hear something from him that
I think that got blown up, like that was a big marker. I think we've been working at this thing for some time now, so I don't think that's really as telling as it came across. So I mean, we're real aware of him, and he's a fine football player, and there may be a place we're not sure about where that fits yet.
What his protest mean, if anything at all, to you guys?
I think he's continuing to work at the stuff that's really important to his heart. That's what it looks like, and he's been recognized, with an award just recently and all that. So, I don't know. It's all everything's important. We're taking everything into account to make the decisions that we make. It's no different for the quarterback spot at any other position that we're considering.
John, they're not having any picks at the moment anyway, the second and third round. How much does that
Yeah,
play?
you said that the other night too. I get it. We don't have a second rounder or a third rounder. Thanks, Bob.
Well, I mean, as you get closer to it, is it a bigger deal to want to try to rectify that at all, or?
It always is.
Yeah,
it always is. We're always trying to get as many. John's been maneuvering like crazy in these drafts.
Yeah, we move around. I think I don't know how it, stacks up with other clubs or anything, but we take a lot of pride in our relationships with clubs and where we can just call somebody up real quick and make a deal to move around so that maybe we're moving up to get somebody, or moving back to acquire 2 guys, possibly 3, and I think it's just. Yeah, to answer your question, I wish we had a second rounder and a third rounder, but, we went for it. So here we are, and now we got to figure it out. It's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
With the guys kind of you said being in awe of the bigger name guys when they get in here, has that been a problem with the last couple of draft classes?
I don't think it's been a problem at all, but I think guys realize once they get here that their opportunity is huge, and really they're not really looking at the guys that aren't here. They're looking at their opportunities to do what they can do. There's been tremendous excitement around the building going into week 2 now of phase 1. There's an energy about the guys that are here in this locker room that's really exciting. The coaches can all feel it. Everybody in the building can feel it. And in that regard, it might feel a little bit like back a couple years ago, there's a real juice about it right now, and we're really excited about it. We haven't had a chance to be on the field with the players yet, but as of next week, we'll even get closer to what's going on. But guys have come back in great shape. We have very few guys that are hurt. There's a lot of guys that are really out here ready to work and get ready for the opportunity and all that. So it's a great sense about it, and we're really fired up about it.
You mentioned Cam Chancellor as one of the guys that people are in awe of. I'm just curious, is there anything new with him, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, my point with that is that what, possibly a Hall of Fame player? I mean, big time player, and he was. The thing that people forget is that he backed up Lawyer Malloy his rookie year, right, and was one of our core special teams players. Both Delano, to Pete's point, both Delano and Tedrick performed very well on special teams for us last year. We drafted them fairly high. And so we have huge expectations for him. You were actually asking me whether or not he's is there any more information on his scan? No, he's going to have a scan. I think it's late June, early July.
Yeah, so we don't have anything updated for you.
But that's what you were getting at, is with a guy like Cam. I thought you were going there for a second.
Stuck out when you said that, so I was wondering.
Yep.
Obviously, the draft is important every year, but this year with kind of the turnover and losing some big names and stuff, is it more critical this year to sort of set you up?
We're not taking it like that. We're taking it as crucial as it could possibly be, and as was free agency and everything else we're doing. I mean, every step of the way, John's battling to get us another guy here, another guy there, and the draft is the same. So, we're hoping like crazy we're going to hit it huge and get some guys that can come help us. But that's not different than what we've looked at in any other year.
Yeah, we build this thing all the way through. You know, we go all the way through the Super Bowl. I mean, we're talking about adding guys in our practice squad, you know, right at the end of the season to try to get them in the mix, you know, for the following year. So, you know, Mike Davis, we claimed him in June last year. It doesn't stop.
You had to make a number of tough calls regarding your assistant coaches. What, if you could summarize, what was lost that you were trying to regain?
I thought it was time to, you know, to address, you know, some concerns about matching up stuff with our players and making sure that we're doing everything that's right for the guys that we have and maximize that. And I thought a new outlook would help us to regain that, because we'd been in kind of the same format, you know, precisely the same format for a number of years. And I thought it would give us a chance to see things fresh and new and make sure that we're not missing it, you know, and that we're taking advantage of the unique qualities and the special skills that our guys have, whether they've been developing over years or newer guys coming in, and seeing that we could do a really good job of that. It felt like a clear opportunity to take a fresh look at what we're doing and how we're doing things. That doesn't mean that philosophically it changes us, like you might think. It just changes the perspective and some of the opinion and all that I thought was necessary. And so there were difficult decisions, and guys that I love being around and working with for a long time. But you know, sometimes that's what you're faced with in those kinds of decisions, and we had to make them. And you know, there is the freshness around the locker room is not exclusive. I mean, I feel it upstairs with what we're doing on the second floor, in the staff meetings and in our work that we're doing to get things going. There's a great energy about it that I think is important. And unfortunately, you know, you have to make some calls sometimes, but that's what you got to do.
Pete, there was a story about Michael Bennett reading books during team meetings, and you know, obviously there was. Richard Sherman was a little bit defiant a couple of years ago.
No way.
How much did that?
Mike never brought a book to a meeting. Okay, so Mike never brought a book to a meeting. I'll tell you that. And the thing I would tell you about that is we've been through a lot around here, and we've grown tremendously together and all that. And changes are inevitable, you know. And sometimes, you know, you guys can't hang with what's expected for one reason or another, their growth, their development, and all that. And the best thing I can tell you is that they're not here. So.
Are you going into entering the draft this offseason expecting to have Malik on the field in 2018?
We haven't had any indication to think that yet. You know, we're waiting to see what happens, and we're hoping that we get good information soon. Unfortunately, I've said this to you guys 100 times. It seems like we don't have anything new for you, and we don't have an update that makes us a call how we're going to deal with this yet. It's not available to us, so we just have to keep waiting.
Updates on him?
We can't expect that he's there at this point, until we get him back. We got to get him back on in the building where he could work and all that. And right now, that's not. We don't have that opportunity to tell you that. We don't know.
On one side, just still not.
There's a lot of stuff we just can't get into, brother. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a
There's
lot of stuff.
there's a lot of things. It's a really unfortunate situation on both sides.
We haven't had a good update in a long time.
The fewer guys on the draft board, how will that play out, you think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? What will
Say it again?
John mentioned the pool of players that you're considering has shrunk. How may that play out? What might that change in draft days and what you're going to do next year?
It's just what it ends up. It just looks cleaner. It looks it's easier to study. It's easier to figure out like where the ledges are, the drop offs, or where the strengths are. And again, we're just trying to get back to. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you what we're trying to get back to. I'm not gonna give you that. I almost went there with you. No, we're just trying to get the when we got here, our 2010, 2011, 2012, we had less numbers just in general. And then for one reason or another, we've continued to add more and more players, and it's just too much.
You know what I can say to you, Johnny? I think our process and our guys doing the evaluations were working so hard and digging into so many guys. We had evaluations on tons and tons of guys, and in that we kind of in respect to the work that we did, we kept them alive and kept them on the board and gave them a chance to be part of the process. But we've just refined it much more so, and we're comfortable. John's comfortable with his guys, and they've zeroed in. They've been willing to kind of eliminate some guys from the draftable numbers, really for all the right reasons. It's really not going to affect us at all. We're still going to make the same choices, and the guys are going to be on the board, and there's going to be plenty of numbers. But I think really it's been a process that has gotten us to the point where we're just clearer and more precise, and the guys are mature about, okay, I know I evaluated this guy, spent 10 months on this dude, but he's not going to be on the board, you know. We were able to get through that, and it's just made us cleaner. It's not going to change anything in terms of the picks or the choices or any of that. And all of those evaluations are still done, and those guys are still, as we get into the free agency part of when the draft is completed, all of those names and numbers are still available to us. So I just think we're better than we've been and more willing to pare it down.
That's a good point. That's part of it too. You know, when you kind of talk about making excuses a little bit for guys, but we've been, when the area scouts are like Pete said, working on these guys for 10, 11 months, they get to know them so well, they have so much passion for them. It's kind of hard to be like, look, we're not gonna deal with that. Okay, sorry, the guy's not gonna be on their board.
Are we talking dozens, or I mean, what's the difference tangibly?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you too much already, man.
We can't answer that.
Do you have a general assessment of this draft? Just, I guess, are there as many maybe NFL-ready players in this draft as there has been in the past?
Yeah, I think it's a solid draft. I think, like every draft. Now here we are. We're like, right. We're right there. But so we end up, beating these guys up a lot, right? So, but we always talk about, what are the strengths that what kind of strengths they have that the staff can help accentuate and develop, and it's a good group that way. But when you get this close after all this work, you end up feeling like you're beating them up a little bit. I mean, you see them on TV like all the time, right? Like, I don't know how those guys do it on TV, talking about that all the time, like every day, comparing these guys.
John, in your own self-scout, over the last few drafts, do you feel it's fair to say that you may have pursued choices of need as opposed to best player available?
Yeah, I think that's fair in a couple instances, sure.
And the fix for that is?
Doing a better job and being aware of it. I mean, it's not like we have our heads in the sand, Yeah, I mean, you can't just go out there and create like the perfect player. Otherwise, we'd be outside picking them off trees or something. I mean, it's like everybody, like I said, everybody has deficiencies, and we need to find the guys with limited deficiencies and what are the strengths that we can work with.
Yeah, we've been drafting solidly for a lot of years here, and that's what's given us a chance to continue to win and have a chance to win divisions and playoff games and all that kind of stuff. And we're not, none of that's any different. But we evaluate ourselves very tough and strictly, and we're always going to regret the guy that didn't make it here or didn't pan out there. Everybody's like that, and we're at this time of year we're been pretty hard on ourselves, and so. We just want to try to keep competing and do a little bit better and find another guy, and you can't, some of the things you can't predict, there ain't nothing to do about it. We've had a little bit of misfortune. Our guy last year, didn't get a chance to play for us. We're disappointed in that, and so, but there was nothing we could do to know that was going to happen. That just happened, So, we all teams are living with the ups and downs and how to work out, but overall we've been really successful, and we just want to keep working at it and keep putting it together and hope that we hit it right, and add to it and get guys that can play for us. We're going to play our young guys, so with those guys that we pick, we're really counting on them to be a factor, and right now, as I've said it before, it's kind of like Christmas. We can open up those presents on draft day and see what we got, and it's going to be exciting.
And everybody does that. All the scouts evaluate themselves every year. They go back and we walk through a whole process. whether it's relying on certain sources at different schools, and what kind of input do you take from different people that you're interacting with at the universities. So yeah, we take a lot of pride in not having all the answers. Our guys don't they don't like finish up the fall and like put away their scouting books and are like, okay, this is what the guy is. We actually have more and more questions to get answered all the way through. And so that's kind of what we take pride in. We don't. Once you think you have once you think you get it all figured out, you don't. That's been our experience.
Kanye get the Monarchs?
I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for. I haven't heard anything from Yeezy yet, so I'm kind of waiting. Maybe get a little word back. He's been kind of. He's kind of went underground on me a little bit here, so I'm not sure if he's.
You were serious about that?
Yeah. Send him some Monarchs.
That's pretty cool.
Get him out there. Make sure he sees them, checks them out, compares them to his closet. He probably got a couple pairs of shoes in his closet, I would bet. Huh? I don't know.
All right, good talk. See you out there. Thanks for coming out, guys.